it going? TJ here with Dead History, and I'm here today with Henry.
Hello.
And welcome back. After over a year-long hiatus, we're back with some more YouTube videos. And today, we're actually going to be starting a brand new series for you here on YouTube. And we took a vote, right? We took a vote amongst our fans, and we asked you guys what you would like to see. And believe it or not, this came in first. Close second was Baseball Hall of Famers and the Declaration of Independence Signer series continuing. But this one came in first, and that is presidential and vice presidential candidates who also lost. So people who ran for those offices and lost the elections and never won. So that's what we decided to do. Now we will get back to our Declaration of Independence Signer series, but we'll do that in the new year. We're going to take these few months here. We're going to do this series. Main reason because you guys voted on it, right? We got to give the fans what they want. But also because it's election season here in the United States. We're only 1 month away from our presidential election, right, Henry?
Yep.
Between Kamala Harris and
Ducky Trump.
Ducky Trump, as Henry calls him, Ducky Trump, Donald Trump, our good little nickname. But yes, that's obviously what's going on here in the States, so here we go. Let's bring it to you, right? And we're going to start by talking about this guy right here, who is, what's his name, Henry?
Henry Clay.
There you go, Henry Clay. You can't forget that name, right, Henry? Two Henrys. So there you go, Henry Clay, statesman from the state of Kentucky. This guy was Speaker of the House. He was Secretary of State. And he ran for president not once, not twice, but how many times, Henry?
3 times.
At least 3 times. And you look, the baseball, what happens in baseball? 3 strikes?
You're out.
You're out. That's it. This man ran for office many times and never won. Very, very interesting man. Very important man in politics back in the day. And we're going to be bringing you all about Henry Clay today. We're excited.
Yep.
So, here we go. Let's get right into things. Our first introduction in a long time, in over a year. You excited, Henry?
Yeah.
You look thrilled with your Patrick Mahomes jersey on. Well, here we go, guys. And this is
Dead History.
Dead History.
Mr. Chairman and gentlemen of the convention.
And if we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe.
Hey guys, welcome back. TJ with Dead History here with Henry.
Hello.
And the guy behind us, good old Mr. Henry Clay. Or as Henry just told me, he almost said before, Henry Claus. Apparently, Henry's got Christmas on his mind. But Henry Clay, very interesting man, like I said, state of Kentucky. His gravesite, his tomb in Kentucky is fabulous. I can't wait to show you guys that. A lot of cool things to show you about Henry Clay. We're really excited about this series, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're either going to do every week a new video or every 2 weeks, but definitely these next few months you're going to be getting plenty of videos from us about presidents and vice presidential candidates. So it's not just presidential candidates. You might get some obscure vice presidential ones in there too, so that'll be a lot of fun. So alright, you know what? I've talked for long enough. Without further ado, let's get right into it and learn all about this gentleman, Henry Clay. We're excited to be back here on YouTube. But Henry, we did the introduction. We told him who we're doing. We told him about the new series. But now, what do the people have to do, young man?
We'll get the popcorn, the pretzels, the potato chips, the gummy bears.
Gummy bears, all right. I want some gummy bears. Where are you hoarding those? Sounds good to me. Henry and I are excited to be back. Go grab those snacks. Get that ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're back. Hopefully better than ever. Henry's almost taller than me. I'm older. I mean, that's just the way life goes, right? Dad, you're going to say it. I know you're going to say it. Fatter. I knew he was going to say that. That's not nice. That's not nice. Yeah, that's not nice. That's like something Donald Trump would say on stage. See, that's not very nice. That's not being very presidential, young man.
You look like Donald Trump.
I look like Donald Trump? No, he's not bald. But anyway, here we go. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hey guys, welcome. TJ here with Dead History, and welcome back to our very first episode of our brand new series here on YouTube, Presidential and Vice Presidential Candidates Who Lost the Election. So basically, presidential and vice presidential losers, as we had said in the introduction, to put it harshly. But welcome back, everybody. Really looking forward to bringing you this new series. Henry and I have been away for a while. It's been over a year since we actually posted our last video on YouTube. Obviously, for those of you that follow us on Instagram at Dead History 1776. If you're not following, please go do so. But if you follow us on there, you've seen that obviously we've been doing a lot of things. We've been traveling around. Henry has officially visited all of the grave sites of every U.S. president, all 39 U.S. presidents that have died. Henry has visited the grave sites of all of them. He completed this task in August of this year, August of 2024. There was newspaper articles written about him. His final two graves were Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon. So the exact same thing I did. My final two president graves were Reagan and Nixon. So he did it in that exact final order, which was very cool. So a big congratulations to Henry. Henry's not even 11 yet. He does not turn 11 years old for another month. So he's 10 years old and visited all the presidents' graves, and he's up to, I want to say he's up to about 25 or 30, probably around 30 vice president grave sites. So pretty incredible. Very, very cool accomplishment for him. So what can I say? So yes, we've been on a hiatus. Obviously, life gets in the way. Things get a little busy at times. Work, school, sports. Henry's big involved, of course, in sports. So it's been quite a wild year. For those of you that do not know, unfortunately, this past April, actually on my birthday, very ironically, April 13th, my mother passed away very suddenly, very unexpectedly. So my family has endured, quite a tragic and sudden loss that we've been obviously grieving with and dealing with over the past 5 months or so. Both my father and mother are now gone. My father passed away in February of 2021. A lot of you that have followed me probably remember that. And now my mom just this past April. So unfortunately, a lot has changed in our lives over here regarding that, of course. Henry is now full-time living with me and going to a new school where I live, in the town I live in. So a lot of changes happened over the last several months in our lives. So it's been quite hectic. But it's a good thing, right? Not my mom passing, of course, but change, other than that, is a good thing. So we're looking forward to all the new challenges and changes and that sort of thing in our lives. But we thank you guys. We wanted to say thank you to everyone, all of our followers and supporters. This has been a really incredible past 4 years for Henry and I. I never expected when I first did this journey of visiting all the grave sites back in 2020, I never expected anyone to want to follow us on YouTube or Instagram. And here we are, over 20,000 subscribers here on YouTube and 50,000 plus subscribers or followers on Instagram. It's been quite incredible. So we thank you guys very, very much for that and all the support over the years. It's been incredible. We're sorry it's been so long. We obviously were in the middle of our Declaration of Independence signer series. We are going to continue that series. However, we're going to continue it probably in the new year, in 2025. We wanted to do something a little fresh, a little new, plus, listen, these videos, there's two reasons I do these videos. I do them for entertainment. I hope people that love history and want to learn things, they are entertained by them. And also for maybe some, at least a little bit, of educational purposes. You know, maybe people that don't know a whole lot about someone like Henry Clay, maybe they'll learn something about Henry Clay watching our videos. So keep in mind, I'm not a historian by trade. I am not educated as a historian. All these things I do, this is simply just a passion and a love and a hobby of mine. That's why I surround myself with very intelligent people and very smart people who are educated, such as Kurt Dion and Dr. Thomas Balcerski, and all these other people that I've had on my channel over the years. Louis Picone, of course, like all these people that are very educated historians that have done extensive research on these things. They obviously give me a lot of insight and a lot of helpful information. But a lot of the information I get is just based on books and online, yes, Wikipedia and encyclopedias and all that sort of thing. That's where I get the majority of my information. So I don't want anyone to sit here and say, oh, you're just reading from a Wikipedia page. Well, yeah. As the old saying goes, no blank, Sherlock. Yes, I am. It's not a surprise. So yes. Anyway, I hope you guys do love these videos. We're going to continue and start to do them again on a more regular basis. And I hope you enjoy this series. Hey, you guys are the ones that voted for this series. You guys are the ones that told us, do this. Do the election, the presidential candidates who lost elections, do those. So we're listening to our audience, and this is what we're doing. Now, the first guy we're doing, of course, is Henry Clay. We're very excited about this. I am hoping, obviously, I'm not going to be rambling on and telling you guys and filling you in on our lives every video like I'm doing now. This is going to be about eight or so minutes long of me rambling to start this video. That's not what it's going to be like, obviously. So my hope is that I'm going to be doing these videos on each person in one video. We're not going to be doing two parts. However, with that being said, people like, believe it or not, Henry Clay, and there's a couple other people as well, that we will be covering. They're probably going to take two parts because there's so much information about someone like Henry Clay. I highly doubt I can squeeze it all into 1 hour. We'll see what happens, but if I had to guess, I'm going to be definitely doing two parts on Henry Clay and a few others throughout this series. As always, any questions, comments, please leave them. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, all that stuff. Subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. Questions, comments, anything you want to say, even negative things, please feel free to comment down on this video. So, I think that's pretty much it. I think I covered everything. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Mr. Henry Clay, one of the greatest statesmen our country has ever known. Here we go. Henry Clay claimed to have been cradled in the American Revolution. He was born the seventh son of 9 children to Reverend John and Elizabeth Hudson Clay on April 12th of 1777. As a 3-year-old, he had witnessed the British troops under the notorious raider Banastre Tarleton ransack his family home. As a youth, Henry Clay grew up in rural, slave-holding Hanover County, Virginia. In his later political life, Clay was to make some stout claim to having been a poor and humble mill boy of the Slashes. In reality, his widowed mother had married Captain Henry Watkins, who was able to get the adolescent Clay into Peter Tinsley's Chancery office as a clerk. Clay entered this public service in a lowly position with only a limited amount of formal education. From Tinsley's office to becoming an amanuensis in Chancellor George Wythe's office, the young Clay developed a clear and precise angular style handwriting which remained clear for the rest of his life. During his lifetime, Henry Clay would produce many thousands of handwritten letters, legal briefs, and public documents. Almost all of Henry Clay's older siblings died before adulthood. His father, a Baptist minister nicknamed Sir John, died in 1781, leaving Henry and his brothers 2 slaves each. He also left his wife 18 slaves and 464 acres of land. Clay was entirely of English descent. His ancestor John Clay settled in Virginia in 1613. The Clay family became a well-known political family, including 3 other U.S. senators, numerous state politicians, and Clay's cousin, Cassius Clay, a prominent anti-slavery activist active in the mid-19th century. And yes, Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali, he was named after Henry Clay's cousin, Cassius Clay. So the story goes that Henry Clay's cousin, whose name is Cassius Marcellus Clay, he was the person who motivated Muhammad Ali's father's parents to name Muhammad Ali's father Cassius Marcellus Clay. So Muhammad Ali's father was also Cassius Marcellus Clay, but he was Cassius Marcellus Clay Sr. And then when Muhammad Ali was born, he was named Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. after his father. And his father was named after Henry Clay's cousin of the same name. So pretty interesting stuff. So believe it or not, Henry Clay has some sort of interesting little tie to the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali.
Hey, I ain't saying Clay ain't bad. I'm just saying I stopped liking Cassius Clay once he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. What kind of shit is that?
Wait a second. Wait a second. A man has the right to change his name to whatever he wants to change it to. And if a man wants to be called Muhammad Ali, God damn it, this is a free country. You should respect his wishes and call the man Muhammad Ali.
His mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. Mm-hmm. That's right. I say Clay.
Get out of here.
That's right. That's right.
I had to show that clip. I'm sorry. Coming to America is a classic, and that's one of my favorite scenes, you know. If his mama named him Clay, I'm going to call him Clay. It's one of my favorite lines, so it's great. Had to do it. So, moving on. The British raided Clay's home shortly after the death of his father. As I said before, he remembers being 3 years old and watching this happen, leaving the family in a precarious economic position. However, the widow, Elizabeth Clay, married Captain Henry Watkins, a successful planner and cousin to John Clay. Elizabeth would have 7 more children with Watkins, bearing a total of 16 children Henry Clay's mother had. That's amazing. Good for her. Watkins became a kind and supportive stepfather, and Clay had a very good relationship with him. After his mother's remarriage, the young Clay remained in Hanover County, where he learned how to read and write. In 1791, Watkins moved the family to Kentucky, joining his brother in the pursuit of fertile new lands in the West. However, Clay did not follow, as Watkins secured his temporary employment in a Richmond emporium, with the promise that Clay would receive the next available clerkship at the Virginia Court of Chancery. Now, Clay worked at that Richmond emporium for a year. He did obtain a clerkship that had become available at the Virginia Court of Chancery, and Henry Clay adapted well to his new role, and his handwriting earned him the attention of College of William and Mary Professor George Wythe, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, and a mentor of Thomas Jefferson, and a judge on Virginia's High Court of Chancery. Hampered by a crippled hand, Wythe chose Clay as his secretary, so basically a role in which Clay would remain for 4 years. And he began there, Henry Clay that is, to read law under Wythe's mentorship, and Wythe had a very powerful effect on Clay's worldview, with Clay embracing Wythe's belief that the example of the United States could help spread human freedom around the world. Wythe subsequently arranged a position for Clay with Virginia Attorney General Robert Brooke, with the understanding that Brooke would finish Clay's legal studies. After completing his studies under Brooke, Henry Clay was admitted to the Virginia bar in 1797. Little could have Henry Clay imagined that the expanding West would become so vital a part of his life. As a newly licensed attorney in Virginia, he instead set out in 1797 to find clients and fortune in Kentucky. In Lexington, Henry Clay's Virginia license enabled him to obtain one to practice in Kentucky. Almost immediately, the young Virginian entered into the public and social life of rapidly expanding central Kentucky. Within a decade, he had established a reputation as a highly successful trial lawyer. On April 11th of 1799, Henry Clay married Lucretia Hart at the Hart home in Lexington, Kentucky. She was the daughter of one of Kentucky's major pioneering land families. Her father, Colonel Thomas Hart, was an early settler of Kentucky and a prominent businessman. Hart proved to be an important business connection for Henry Clay as he helped Clay gain new clients and grow in professional stature. Almost by force of environmental and family circumstances, Henry Clay was to become a major landowner, livestock breeder, and farmer. For half a century, his Ashland estate would become not only a family home to the Clays, but also an agricultural center in Kentucky and a national one in politics. Henry Clay and Lucretia had 11 children, 6 daughters and 5 sons. By 1835, all 6 daughters had died of varying causes. 2 when very young, 2 as children, and the last 2 as young mothers. Henry Jr. was killed while commanding a regiment at the Battle of Buena Vista during the Mexican-American War. And Henry Clay's oldest son, Theodore Wythe Clay, spent the second half of his life confined to a psychiatric hospital. When a young child, Theodore was injured by a blow to his head that fractured his skull. As he grew older, his condition devolved into insanity, and from 1831 until his death in 1870, he was confined to an asylum in Lexington. Thomas, who had served some jail time in Philadelphia, became a successful farmer. James established a legal practice and later served in Congress. And John, who in his mid-20s was also confined to the asylum for a short time, became a successful horse breeder. So as you can see, the Clay children did not exactly have the easiest go of things in life. The 6 daughters died. Only 2 of them made it to motherhood and then died. And his sons, they had a rough go of it, clearly. You know, one spent some time in jail. 2 of them were in an asylum. 1 of them got out of an asylum. The other one died inside of an asylum due to a very horrific bad brain injury when he was young. Yeah, it just did not go very well for the Clay children, that's for sure. Henry Clay was greatly interested in gambling. Although he favored numerous restrictions and legal limitations on it, famously, he once won $40,000, which is approximately about $1 million in this day and age, and Clay asked for $500, which would be probably around 15 grand or so today, and waived the remainder of the debt. Shortly afterward, Clay fell into a debt of $60,000, which in today's money is probably close to about $2 million, while he was gambling with the same man, who then asked for the $500 back and waived the rest of the debt. So the Clays initially lived in Lexington, Kentucky, but in 1804 they began building a plantation outside of Lexington known as Ashland. The Ashland estate eventually encompassed over 500 acres with numerous outbuildings such as a smokehouse, a greenhouse, and several barns. There were 122 enslaved people at the estate during Clay's lifetime, with about 50 people needed for farming in the household. He planted crops such as corn, wheat, and rye, as well as hemp, the chief crop of the bluegrass region. Clay also took a strong interest in thoroughbred racing and imported livestock such as Arabian horses, Maltese donkeys, and Hereford cattle. Though Clay suffered some financial issues during economic downturns, he never fell deeply into debt and ultimately left his children a large inheritance. After the deaths of Anne and Susan, Clay and Lucretia raised several grandchildren at Ashland. And we already discussed, Henry Clay obviously started practicing law in Kentucky. Since he already passed the Virginia bar in Virginia, he was able to receive a Kentucky license to practice law. He apprenticed himself to Kentucky attorneys such as George Nicholas, John Breckinridge, James Brown. Clay established his own law practice, frequently working on debt collections and land disputes. Clay soon established a reputation for strong legal ability and courtroom oratory. In 1805, he was appointed to the faculty of Transylvania University, where he taught, among others, future Kentucky Governor Robert P. Lecter and Robert Todd, the future father-in-law of Abraham Lincoln. So that's a pretty interesting little fact. Henry Clay's most notable client was Aaron Burr, who was indicted for treason in the Burr conspiracy. Clay and his law partner, John Allen, successfully defended Burr without a fee in 1807. Thomas Jefferson later convinced Clay that Burr had been guilty of the charges. Clay's legal practice was light after his election to Congress. Henry Clay entered politics shortly after arriving in Kentucky. In his first political speech, he attacked the Alien and Sedition Acts, laws passed by Federalists to suppress dissent during the quasi-war with France. Like most Kentuckians, Clay was a member of the Democratic Republican Party, but he clashed with the state party leaders over a state constitutional convention. Henry Clay began his political career in 1803 when he was elected to the Kentucky General Assembly. In that body, his Jeffersonian views were pitted against the conservative Federalist views of Humphrey Marshall, a fact which resulted in a somewhat comic opera duel. In 1806, Henry Clay was employed to defend Aaron Burr, a ticklish task which he abandoned when he was appointed to the United States Senate that year at the very young age of 29 years. On January 11th of 1808, he was chosen Speaker of the House of Representatives, and in January of 1810, he was returned to the U.S. Senate. However, in August of that year, Clay was elected once again to the House of Representatives and served as Speaker in the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th Congresses. Henry Clay was to be a major voice in the troubled years in American-British relations from 1808 to 1814. He served as commissioner to the joint American-British peace negotiations in Ghent, Belgium in 1814. Between 1810 and 1824, Henry Clay was elected 7 terms in the House. His tenure was interrupted from 1814 to 1815, like I just said, when he was a commissioner to peace talks with the British to end the World War of 1812. And then from 1821 to 1823, Clay had left Congress to rebuild his family's fortune in the aftermath of the Panic of 1819. Those were the only times he was interrupted service there. Elected Speaker 6 times, Henry Clay's cumulative tenure in office of 10 years, 196 days, is the second longest, surpassed only by Sam Rayburn. As a Speaker, Henry Clay wielded considerable power in making committee appointments, and like many of his predecessors, he assigned his allies to important committees. Clay was exceptional in his ability to control the legislative agenda through well-paced allies and the establishment of new committees, and departed from precedent by frequently taking part in floor debates. Yet, he also gained a reputation for personal courteousness and fairness in his rulings and committee appointments. Clay's drive to increase the power of the office of Speaker was aided by President James Madison, who deferred to Congress in most matters. John Randolph, a member of the Democratic Republican Party, but also a member of the Tertium Quids group that opposed many federal initiatives, emerged as a prominent opponent of Speaker Henry Clay. While Randolph frequently attempted to obstruct Clay's initiatives, Clay became a master of parliamentary maneuvers that enabled him to advance his agenda, even over the attempted obstruction by Randolph and others. A little side note here, back home, after 1815, Henry Clay became involved in nearly every national issue. The issues which thrust him into the political limelight were the Missouri Compromise, the banking issues, opposition to Andrew Jackson, and the promotion of his American system. No doubt, the most important of these was the negotiation of the Missouri Compromise. The legislation was viewed as fundamental in maintaining American unity, providing some kind of workable sectional policy regarding slavery expansion and some kind of Western policy. And Clay was very instrumental. For example, President James Madison, he actually was very big in kind of pushing Clay to help him regarding like the War of 1812 and peace negotiations with the British. During the War of 1812, Henry Clay frequently communicated with who was the Secretary of State at the time, James Monroe, and the Secretary of War, William Eustis. So he definitely was very involved. Even though he wasn't a part of the presidential cabinet, he was very, very involved. It was October of 1813 where James Madison, president at the time, he asked Henry Clay to join the diplomatic team. Because James Madison had hoped that the presence of what was, Clay was considered the leading war hawk, so to speak, at the time. Madison was hoping that would ensure support for a peace treaty. And at the time, Henry Clay was very reluctant to leave Congress. But he felt that, he was kind of obligated to do so. And that's, of course, when he left and he was involved. We had said that, the Treaty of Ghent over there, Ghent, Belgium, he was involved in all that. So, but he was asked by the president himself to help out with this. So that's how well respected Henry Clay was during these times. Even though he wasn't a part of a presidential cabinet at this particular time, he definitely was very, very well respected, and people listened to him for sure. And then that brings us to the presidency of James Monroe, President James Monroe. When he took office, obviously Henry Clay was still a very, very prominent member of Congress, and he was, a very, very influential voice, so to speak. And actually, President James Monroe offered Henry Clay the position of Secretary of War. But Henry Clay strongly desired the office of Secretary of State, and he was actually angered when Monroe instead chose John Quincy Adams for that position. Henry Clay became so bitter that he refused to allow Monroe's inauguration to take place in the House chamber, and subsequently did not attend Monroe's outdoor inauguration. In early 1819, a dispute erupted over the proposed statehood of Missouri after New York Congressman James Talmadge introduced a legislative amendment that would provide for the gradual emancipation of Missouri slaves. Though Clay had previously called for a gradual emancipation in Kentucky, he sided with the Southerners in voting down Talmadge's amendment. Clay instead supported Illinois Senator Jesse B. Thomas's compromise proposal, in which Missouri would be admitted as a slave state and Maine would be admitted as a free state, and slavery would be forbidden in the territories north of the 3630 parallel. Clay helped assemble a coalition that passed the Missouri Compromise as Thomas's proposal became known. Further controversy ensued when Missouri's constitution banned free blacks from entering the state, but Clay was able to engineer another compromise that allowed Missouri to join as a state in August of 1821. In foreign policy, Henry Clay was a leading American supporter of the independence movements and revolutions that broke out in Latin America beginning in 1810. Clay frequently called on the Monroe administration to recognize the fledgling Latin American republics, but Monroe feared that doing so would derail his plans to acquire Spanish Florida. In 1818, General Andrew Jackson crossed into Spanish Florida to suppress raids by Seminole Indians. Though Jackson was following Monroe's implied wishes in entering Florida, he created additional controversy in seizing the Spanish town of Pensacola. Henry Clay was outraged, and he publicly condemned Jackson's decision to hang 2 foreign nationals without a trial. Before the House chamber, he compared Jackson to military dictators of the past, telling his colleagues that Greece had her Alexander, Rome her Caesar, England her Cromwell, France her Bonaparte, and that if we would escape the rock on which they split, we must avoid their errors. Jackson saw Henry Clay's protestations as an attack on his character, and thus began a long rivalry between Henry Clay and Andrew Jackson. So, believe it or not, guys, I think I'm going to end this part 1 here. I know it's only probably about 20 minutes worth of actual material on Henry Clay in this part 1, but I want to put all of the presidential elections where he ran for president, I want to put them all in one video. And if I go into those now, this video would end up being like an hour and a half long. So I think the best thing to do is just put it as, one video. For now, this covered kind of, his early life, just kind of his rise into politics, a little bit about his influence in his early years in politics, kind of his stance on certain issues and policies. I think that was important to establish here today in this part 1. And then tomorrow, part 2 of Henry Clay, we're going to go over every presidential election that he ran in. We're going to go in his time as Secretary of State. We're going to get into a bit about his return into the Senate. Again, we're going to go over all of that. And then eventually, even the formation of the Whig Party that Henry Clay was very instrumental in. So we're going to get into all of that in part 2. And then, his later life and death. We'll do all of that in part 2 tomorrow. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Obviously, a look into the early life of Henry Clay. Tomorrow, we will cover everything, all of the presidential elections where Clay ran for president, but obviously lost, came up short. We'll go over all of that and much more tomorrow. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Really appreciate it. Of course, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, hit subscribe, share the video, leave your comments and questions, and we thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye, guys.